Hello, Internet. So, still working on the Grand Cherokee, and we're doing the oil cooler. Because evidently, when Chrysler decided to design the 3.6, they went to the International Engine Engineering Department. We're like, hey, teach us how to make blowing up oil coolers. You know, those guys that have had to work on Ford diesels, well, international diesels and late model Fords, you understand. Oh, I picked up the Dorman kit. Some people like it, some people don't. I get it. Product quality these days, everybody takes in the hit. But it does look pretty nice, pretty standard. It's very complete. And I don't know. I already started taking some stuff apart. I'm sure I made my life more difficult because I left it on the jack stands from doing the suspension. I mean, you got to drain the oil anyway, so just deal with it. So let's see what we got. I already went ahead. I drained the oil. Got the filter popped, just in, these are always good. You just pop out, releases the drain valve in the housing, and, does all the thing. Actually, I don't know if this one has a drain valve. Anyway, force habit. Got the rest of the air intake off. That is just a wonderful piece of plastic. I got the breather crossover tube, connects there, off. Started disconnecting some wiring. And, now it's time to disconnect all the important bits. While I'm in here, before the upper intake goes back on, I'm going to do boots and spark plugs. To the best of my knowledge, according to service records, this thing's never had any ignition work done to it. So, figure might as well while I'm in here. Can't hurt. And I just don't I don't know, maybe it's because I'm old. I just don't believe in that whole wait until your check engine light comes on. Get it while you can. It's not too much. And I mean, especially if all you got to do is take the upper intake off. It's nothing. And Chrysler was even nice enough to tell you right there, torque these bolts to 7 to 9 Newton meters. So for those of you that don't know what a Newton meter is, you can do the conversions on the internet. Google will be your friend. So, we'll get to work. We'll start taking this apart and see how tricky it is. It shouldn't be too bad of a job. Looks like it's fairly simple. Let's see. Okay, so I don't know how much of the bulk video I'm going to be using, at least in that section. I was having some difficulties with stuff. This car has been in an accident, and it was during the pandemic, so the shop we were able to take it to was not the best, and I think I have earlier videos of like all the bullshit that was involved, but I've never really had to take the cowling and stuff off. And there's hardware missing, hardware was misthreaded, stuff like that. So it was just kind of a pain in the ass, and I kept stopping and starting, thinking that I'd survived it, and I hadn't. So I usually play this stuff like Uncle Tony. Things come apart and go back together pretty generically after you've taken stuff apart for a while. I kind of jumped the gun, started taking apart the intake. Not thinking about taking apart the cowling until I got so far back that I couldn't get to anything because the wiper cowling stuff was all in the way. So we've got all that out now. I did end up breaking one of the trim clips, actually that one right there that I'm pointing at. So I'm sure that'll come back to bite me in the butt later, but I don't think I'm replacing that whole piece of trim just to fix the one clip. And the clip up here, actually in the same location, the top clip on this side, that one had been broken. So let's say the clip is supposed to be a 1/2 inch long, it was only like 3/8, and it made it much more difficult to get a tool on it to compress it and get it out. But anyway, those are my problems, not your problems. Should be pretty smooth sailing, I think, getting the intake and stuff off at this point. Let's see over here. Got to get the vacuum hose off and just get the rest of the bolts out in general, and that should do it, and we can move on from there. So back to work. Well, you know what? It's always nice to know that you're not the first person to be inside of an engine. I am not the one that broke all of these clips. As soon as I got the intake off, all these clips are broken. Now, we're not the first owners of this vehicle, but we do have a lot of service records for it. We are the second owners. And there's no like intake service or anything like that on anything. So I'm not really sure why those are all busted up, but they are. And so, you know, that's life of owning a used vehicle. You find new stuff all the time. All right, I turned the other camera off because I couldn't stand watching people watch me struggle that much. That spring clamp just kicked my ass. I couldn't get this tool, which is what you normally would use on one of those, is this compressor tool. I just couldn't get it in there at first. I ended up having to screw with multiple different style pliers until I could get it in an angle so that when I picked the cooler up out of here, I could tilt it, get that on. Once I could get that on, I could break the seal on the hose, because the hose hasn't been off in 10,000 years. And cooler is out. Got to pop one more sensor out, transfer those. I got to do a bunch of cleanup in here. More quality. Let's hide the knock sensors under everything in the universe so that they're difficult to get to. And it's going to be reassembly. I did find, let's see, probably won't be able to see because everything is. Can I get the light? Can't quite. The light gets in the way of the camera every time I go to use it. There is some liquid down there on that cylinder. So I need to investigate. I'm really hoping, and maybe it's just a leaky coil boot or a valve cover seal, something like that. But that's not. I don't notice any smoke driving this, but that's probably not the bestest of situations. Got to do some cleaning. Got to get that out. I think I'm going to get some food. Alright, so I went ahead and did the plugs in the coil boots. I'm waiting for my thread sealer. Well, I don't know. I just felt like doing it at this point. This one here would have been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Because it goes 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, right? Okay. So this one was the one where I saw the liquid on the back side of the valve and was worried. You can see they're all dry. None of them are, none of them are fuel fouled or oil soaked. But if I can get El Camera to focus, there we go. They all look like that. So these are very focus, camera, anything. Back it up, maybe get to a spot where there's nothing else to look at but that. No, it's not going to do it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Now it's focused. They're all cruddy like that. And this is why I personally hate waiting for, waiting for check engine light to tell you, hey, a part's broken, you need to replace it. And there we go. You can see that one. That's number 1. You see the electrodes worn down pretty well on all of these, the ground electrode. If I can get it to show up,
It's actually at a taper. It's narrower on the one side than it is on the other, thinner on the one side than it is on the other. I just really dislike that. This one's discolored. That's cool. This, like, the steel discolored, so that, you know, you always know it's top quality there. I just don't like waiting. I know a lot better, you know, YouTube professionals. I was just a fleet mechanic and then a small engine mechanic, so, you know, I don't know nothing. I don't work on fancy. And those guys say that you just, in modern cars, you know, the ball joints are magical wooby woos that are good until they are noticeably failed, and spark plugs and stuff are good until they throw up a signal. But these aren't good. They may work, and there is a functional difference between working and working 100% proper. But there we go. That's my rant. Let's see here. Hold on. Flip the camera around. Whew, that was bad. Okay. So, I tried getting bulk footage as best I could. I don't know what I'm going to use, what I'm not going to use. I'm not good. I'm not good. I'm learning. I'm trying to figure it out. So, hey, that's what it is. That's what we got. That's what we deal with. Trying to move the camera around, not just have it on the tripod, stuck in one spot where, you know. But we'll see how it comes out when I get everything downloaded. Put it all back together, and then probably just come up and do a wrap-up video, make sure there's no leaks, things like that. I really wish there was a better way to check this. You know, well, I'm looking at the old one on the ground. Really wish there was a better way to check the oil cooler for leaks without having to reassemble the entirety of the intake manifold. You know, that it hinders what you can see to check for leaks. And if you do have a leak, you know, if something happens and you're not careful and you nick a seal, something like that, you know, it's that much more work to go back and do it. And this isn't like a Chrysler Pentastar rant or anything like that. This is general mechanic stuff. You know, there are a lot of vehicles, even in context, some older vehicles and things like that. There are a lot of vehicles in the world where, you know, something is a common fail point, but you have to put half of it all back together, or, you know, all of it all back together, just to check to see that the fix actually fixed what it was. And I dislike that in general. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it's bad engineering, but at the same time, I understand that there are some cases that just cannot be prevented. There are just some instances where there is no other viable, logical, functional location without having to do all that. All right, I haven't really ranted. That's my rant. I like ranting. So let me get to work, then we'll do a wrap up. Okay, and we're done. Everything's back together. It doesn't leak, at least not yet. Let it run for a while. I do have a couple of brake-related lights on that I didn't have before, but that probably is something to do with the suspension system. I'm going to get the tires on, get it on the ground. That's a whole nother thing. But as far as this is concerned, yeah, everything went back together. It's nice. It's neat. I did notice one slight discrepancy in torque specs. And that is for the upper intake manifold. Molded cast into the upper intake manifold, it says, I put the cover back on it. It gives you a Newton meter and shows tightening a bolt. It's got a picture, it shows tightening a bolt. So that's the torque spec. The torque specs that I found online were in foot or inch pounds. Don't confuse foot pounds and inch pounds. I see horror stories daily like that. And it was 89 inch pounds. There's not a lot of difference between those two, but there is 89 inch pounds is more clamping force than the, like, I think it said 7 to 12 Newton meters, and even at 12 Newton meters, there's a few inches different. It's different. Whether or not it makes any matter, I don't know. I went with the 89 inch pounds because I just did. But do be mindful that where the upper intake screws into the lower intake, it is not threaded inserts. They are just self-cutting plastic. Well, I mean, the screws are metal, but they just cut directly into the plastic. There's no, like, nutsert or anything like that.
It's what it is. Just be mindful of it. Maybe start at the Newton meter setting since it is a little lower and work your way up. You do you. I'm going to flip it over though and show you torque spec. And I also have the torque pattern for the cooler to block, lower intake and upper intake. I didn't look, and the kit didn't come with a torque pattern for the cooler to, I don't know, lower section, the actual manifold cooler to the body that bolts to the block. It just gave the torque spec for it, and it was 6 bolts hold it down, and they're offset staggered enough that you could do a simple crisscross pattern and just go. So just, you know, you do you, figure it out. But I'm gonna flip the camera around. Let's see here, can I walk out? Okay, and right about there, hold it there for a few, and if you need, there you are. Pretty much everything on the cooler is going to be this 106. So the cooler to the block is 106. The manifold radiator to the cooler base is 106, and the lower intake is 106 inch pounds. Flipping the camera back over. Inch pounds. You try to torque those little 6mm bolts to like 106 foot-pounds, and you're going to be very unhappy and have to do a lot of extra work. So always pay attention. Don't confuse your inch pounds and foot pounds. And when in doubt, just do Newton meters. Just do Newton meters. It works. Don't be afraid of the metric system, folks. It works. It's simple. It's been around a long time. It's okay. Take a deep breath. The metric system is fine. But yeah, you can kind of see everything's back together. So we had some discoloration on the number 6 spark plug steel. You can definitely tell. I took a picture of it. I think I showed it on camera. It's blued. It's the only one out of the 6. It's blued. I don't know. And like I say, we're second owners. We do have very good detailed service records, but service records are only as good as the people that submit them. Okay, I started rambling about Carfax and service reports, and I got like derailed and saw a squirrel, and okay. So we're wrapping this up. I'll edit it up as best I can. You know, my editing skills are top notch. And, but yeah, I really don't know why this showed signs once the upper intake was off of someone having gone into it before. They obviously had not changed the spark plugs. Those spark plugs are horrible. And so here's what it is. Everything seems to run good. Doesn't leak anything so far. I need to get tires on it, put it back on the ground, and schedule an appointment with the alignment shop so that it can be driven again, because it's been sitting here for like a month or a month and a half, and I'm, you know, not really cool with that. I want it moving and mobile. So everybody get out, have fun, do something you like.